Florida, obviously a key battleground state for the Clinton team and the Trump team. Analysts say her team is not ruling out trying to flip some red states to blue. Lisa Lair, national policy reporter with the Associated Press, with me now. How you doing, Lisa? Good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon.
I want to show what a map that came out earlier for what her main targets are. And a lot of this stuff, frankly, is predictable. I mean, think about Florida and Ohio, Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, on down to Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Virginia, and Wisconsin. Is anything on this map a surprise, Lisa? This is where the election's won.
Right. We're looking at the same set of battleground states that were at play in 2012, that were at play in 2008. What has happened in some of these states is they have moved a little bit demographically. So Virginia, the Clinton campaign is feeling pretty comfortable about Virginia. Of course, her running mate Tim Kaine is from the state, but they've also paused their advertising there, which is an indication that they feel happy with their standing in that state, at least right now. That was a state that was a much tougher climb for Democrats in 2008 or even in 2012, that now maybe because of demographic feels much more in the party's reach.
You saw this poll from Georgia last week, the newspaper out of Atlanta, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I mean, if this is what happens in 3 months from now, this election is a landslide. Have you been able to get a gauge as to whether or not that is how it is truly moving in Georgia today?
I mean, the sense has always been that Georgia is a state that could turn Democratic. I think people aren't quite sure about whether that would happen this cycle or not. But as you point out, it certainly is a really interesting bellwether. I think if Hillary Clinton wins Georgia, wins Arizona, wins these other states that Democrats like to talk about changing in the future, it's a sign that she's doing pretty well. The question really becomes whether the campaign is going to spend money in Georgia. Obama's campaign looked at whether to spend there, and they just ended up concluding that they didn't have to. If you're running a campaign, you're looking for the most cost-effective, fastest way to get to 270. And so if they don't feel like they have to play in Georgia, they're not going to spend money there. Now, they could spend some money there or send Secretary Clinton down there as sort of a head fake to try to get the Trump campaign to spend money down there. But he's not spending money on ads anywhere. He's not up in the airwaves at all. So I'm not sure how successful a head fake that would be.
Lisa, do you think his speech today in Detroit puts pressure on him, or on her rather, when you think about what his message was? And he was trying to paint a vision for the future, suggesting that she is part of the past. How did you hear it?
He was. That's exactly his argument, that she's sort of old establishment politics and he's creating something new and pushing something new. I mean, frankly, we don't have a lot of specifics on the policies in these speech. The thing that got a lot of people excited was his plan to subsidize child care for families. We don't have a lot of detail on that, so it's hard to really assess what these policies would mean for voters. Certainly, the Clinton campaign is going to respond. She has a speech scheduled in Thursday for Detroit, and they've been happy because in some polls we've seen recently come out, that gap, for a long time, Trump led when voters were asked who they felt would do better with the economy. That gap seems to be shrinking. In a couple of polls last week, Clinton actually had the edge there. So they think this is an issue they're making gains on, even as voters do seem to have responded in the primary to his message.
And with regard to her,
really.
well, you go back 8 days of the Chris Wallace interview on Fox News Sunday, and then you think about how she answered that question on Friday afternoon at the Convention for Hispanic and African American Journalists. It's a story that continues to move, to churn, and you wonder at which point, how does she clarify this? Does she hold a press conference where it's been more than 250 days, or does she ride it out into that first debate at the end of September? As it stands today, what do you think is the best or smartest money?
Well, she's had an awfully hard time clarifying this. Whenever this topic comes up, she gives these really legalistic answers. That's not what voters want to hear, right? A campaign is not a courtroom. Public opinion is not a jury. So she needs to find a way, certainly before the first debate, because as you point out, this topic will certainly come up then, to give an answer that satisfies voters on this. Now, you know, given where Trump's numbers, what we've seen post-convention, none of this may matter in the election. She could have this issue dog her and still win in November.